Hey, good evening. It's 7 o'clock and appreciate your attendance. We will call our Scott County Fiscal Court business meeting for 10/26 to order, and I would like to ask you to join me in the pledge. Let us pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Hamilton, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hostetler?
Present.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Wallace?
Here.
Mr. Corman?
Present.
Mr. Ellison? Mr. Pratt? Mr. Livingston? Mr. Culbertson?
Here.
Judge Covington?
Present. With that said, we do have a quorum. We will now take up and consider the minutes as presented from our previous meeting. Any questions or comments? Motion from Mr. Jones, a second from Mr. Wallace. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item, transfers as presented. Any questions or comments?
Motion's approved.
Motion. Second from Mr. Hostetler. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 6, bills and hand checks from to jail fund from general fund, $300,000. Any questions or comments?
Motion for approval.
Motion from Mr. Wallace.
Second.
Second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. That will bring us down to number 7, ordinance 2310, second reading, RV campground text amendment. And we had the first reading at our previous meeting, and I've had a request from Mayor Tom Prather. Mayor, welcome. I'd like to welcome you. He has asked if he could address the court in regards to this text amendment, and welcome your comments.
Thank you, Judge, and good evening, members of the court. I called for David today and told him I was going to be up here. I figured he might bolt, but I didn't think he'd take 2 others with him, Judge.
Well, we're expecting Ryan Pratt any second, but the girls' regional volleyball championship is tonight, and both David and Dwayne have daughters that are starters on the team.
They're exactly where they need to be.
They are. They are.
So,
they are.
Let that be for the record. Thank you for just a moment to speak with the court. First off, Rick, congratulations on your dedication last Saturday on the baby box.
And thank you for your support.
It was nicely done. Glad to have it in our community, and a real nice addition. One thing I wanted to mention in front of the court is that was really important that Saturday is Cliff Wilson, the CEO of Georgetown Community Hospital, was at that dedication. And Georgetown Community Hospital is one of our key partners with the baby box. We can't have a baby box without a hospital affiliation. And what's true nationwide and will be true here probably too is the baby box is worth it if it saves one life and one baby gets surrendered there. But the reality is the much greater number of surrenders happen at the hospital. Maybe fire stations second, things of that nature. But it's such a safe and protective environment at the hospital that they're a big partner in that House bill that passed and making sure babies are safe. Just wanted to mention that. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor.
I've watched with interest your all's discussion of the rural sewer ordinance. That's what I'm calling it, Judge. That may be the wrong phrase for it.
RV park text amendment.
RV park text amendment. Thank you.
Yes.
And let me say right up front that I appreciate the attention that Magistrate Livingston has given me, the judge has given me, Judge and Jared have met with me. been very forthcoming with all the information. Not here tonight to really criticize this at all. I understand exactly why Judge Covington would seek these type of solutions, or vendors would bring you these type of solutions. So, and it sounds to me like you all have been real careful about looking at the background behind this technology and looking at its application in other places. So I applaud those steps. Acknowledging all of that, I went to Judge Covington and asked him just about, my perspective on this is so filtered or formed by what I went through for 6 years trying to get the sewer project done to the project on our county line. We each contributed $200,000 to that project. City's also got a $22 million KIA loan to say grace over that. The judge and the developer, Mr. Anderson, have talked with me and have been very careful in pointing out the differences between those projects. And I understand there are vast differences between the projects, Judge. Probably the biggest difference that I can see is one has no moral obligation attached to it, where the trailer park certainly did. So that's a difference. I think the ordinance has been pretty well crafted. I know Chase gave you some suggestions for it. But we stand here as a county that while we know that the system technology has been tried and true, we haven't been exposed to it. We haven't tried it here. And we're a county that hasn't even finished construction of the solution to our last environmental nightmare. I'm not suggesting this will be one, but our county has that perspective. That trailer park was listed as the #1 environmental problem in the Bluegrass Area Development District for year after year after year. In Scott County, Kentucky, we had to put up signs, no swimming or bathing or playing in this water because it's dangerous. It's not who we are. Studies showed that what fouled that stream was not cows, it was not livestock, it was human fecal matter. So we're still in the process of getting that put to bed. That's already changed hands. There are new owners who are now before the city council asking them to add more to the KIA loan to help them pave the streets in a private development. I have every belief in this technology, and I have every belief in Dennis Anderson. He's one of the finest developers in Kentucky. He does what he says he'll do. He may not own it forever. Others may own it. What I asked the judge about is, could we consider asking the developer to in some way indemnify local government from something that might happen in the future? Even the best technology and the most simple technology, and I understand this is, eventually needs operation, maintenance. Every system does. Eventually, every system needs replacement and rejuvenation and updating. And anticipating those costs in the future under different ownership. And is there a way, Judge and I talked about it, in my mind, it would be kind of like the banks do sometime, Kelly, when they're making a loan, or lawyers do, Cam, when they're looking at a situation and putting a deal together. The deal's good, but you need more just to give you confidence, an abundance of caution. We ask for things in an abundance of caution in all of these professions. Judge asked me if I'd be willing to talk to Mr. Anderson. I've known him for some time, and I've talked with Dennis about this. Naturally, he believes that it's not necessary, and he's very good at explaining why it's not necessary. Dennis is effective. He could explain that to me over and over, and my return always was, but we're a community that just faced this. This is the first time we're being exposed to this technology. Can you help us with our confidence? Can you help the court? Can you help the community with a little more confidence in the way this is done? He explained to me again in great detail why it wasn't necessary. He is adamant about that. In his defense, I want to be fair about our conversation. But I asked him at the end of it if he would consider some method of indemnifying the county in this situation. He said he would. So what I'm here to ask you is to continue that conversation, to be interested in some way to protect us in the event of. I even told Mr. Anderson this. I wouldn't ask this of a typical developer, but frankly, he's a little more sophisticated than the average developer. It's just something that I thought would be beneficial for the court to discuss. I know you've got this up for second reading, Judge. I guess you've got a legal quorum, but the other thing I want to say is this is such a dramatic shift in the policy that the county has held for about 20 years. Long time. Even as recently as a year ago, this court and the judge and the Woodford County judge and Versailles mayor and the Midway mayor and I was mayor had Chase sign this letter opposing this transaction in Midway. Judge, I want to be fair. This letter says if it's going to be on a packaged treatment plant. So
I appreciate that clarification.
That's the caveat there. And this is a different technology. But I think that the spirit of this letter was if it's not attached to a municipal sewer system, those long-term questions still have to be answered if you're not protected with an environmental insurance policy, a bond, some kind of methodology. That's it, Judge. I'd be glad to take any questions.
I appreciate it very much and appreciate your passion and concern for our community. That's number one. Appreciate that and respect that 1,000 times. And as I shared with you when we met earlier this week, and I did feel like I wanted to encourage you to get all the information that you could. I felt like we shared information, and I encourage you to talk to Mr. Anderson as well. We really tried, first and foremost, to make it a priority to prohibit any package treatment plant like structure or treatment facility, and then we tried to do our due diligence and make the path very narrow about what technology could be used and what the specific outcomes were related to that treated water. And I had feedback from the Division of Water, feedback from the Health Department, and trying to do our due diligence. And I feel, and then I've talked to the manufacturer. And the day that you came and met with me, I spoke with the manufacturer, and I said, anytime there's any type of human involvement, there's a potential for error. And they said, yeah, we have from time to time a blower that malfunctions or some small operator install error, but they had never had, and they've been doing business for many years, they've never had a catastrophic failure of one of these treatment facilities. And I think right now the number that they shared with me is they're installing over 141 current systems right now. So let the record reflect that Mr. Ryan Pratt joined us at 7:16. Thank you, Mr. Pratt. But I just want you and everybody else, the public, to know that we have that same concern and we want to protect our community, but at the same time felt like this was a different situation where the moral obligation of trying to keep people in housing, that was what kept you working to try to find a long-term solution instead of just shutting it down. And
although we threatened to do that,
yeah,
something had to be done.
And in this case, we put in, required maintenance, required install specs, required ongoing maintenance. And I understand what you're saying. Mr. Anderson might not be the owner of this particular one forever, and there might be other potential applicants that don't have his same business record, and I respect that very much. But I just want everybody to know that we've taken this very seriously and that we've tried to do our due diligence to protect our community, but at the same time consider new technology that would make this business opportunity a possibility.
And Judge, I think you have.
Yeah.
That's hopefully that's my message. I think you all have. This would be purely an abundance of caution.
And I would welcome any comment or question from anyone on the court. And then if anyone in the audience has any questions or comments.
Ryan, just very briefly, I was asked the judge earlier this week and Mr. Anderson if Mr. Anderson would consider some form of indemnification for the county or local government in case there was a future financial obligation occur from the sewer operation. In a nutshell, that was it.
Mr. Wallace, you.
So the mayor and I have been involved with this for a long time, and that's what my reservation has been against this ordinance, one part particular, the lack of sewer as far as this component. I would say that the ordinance is better than what we had currently or what's currently on the books. There's now a requirement of a zone change. We put some stricter legislation in there that measures, quantifies certain limits as far as the number of RVs. But to the mayor's point, now I'm with him on this, is I still think that sewer and public sewer is the best way to deal with RV parks. And that can be proven by the owners of this RV park went to the city of Midway looking for sewer, and they did not get sewer. So that tells you that with this new technology, yes, granted, it might be something new, but the developers knew that sewer was the most dependable source to get rid of human waste, and so that's why they went that direction. Thus, I like I said, I think it's better, but I'm still opposed to the way it is currently, the way it's going to be read. However, I'm open to Mayor Prather's suggestion if we want to include a clause of indemnification in there, that we would include that. I guess I'll leave that up to Cam. Can we say that we need to include that as part of this ordinance?
Probably, if the court wants to do that, table it, and much as I hate to say it, do another first reading, because that's a fairly substantive change, I think.
Can I ask you a question? You did say he would agree to that. Did I understand you correctly, or?
He did not agree. Kelly, I don't want to represent what Dennis said.
No, the indemnification where he felt.
But what I asked Dennis simply at the end of our long, detailed conversation was I cut back to the quick. I said, Dennis, is this something you would consider? And he said, yes, I will.
Okay.
So he did say he was receptive to a longer term conversation about it. I indicated to Dennis that it wasn't my intention to come to the court and cause a problem or to stop second reading of the ordinance. That just wasn't my intention at all, particularly with his commitment to be willing to explore that with you in the future. But I do think it'll take some commitment from you all to urge that conversation. I'm not sure I agree with Cam. I think that would be a very substantive change and would you'd have to start all over, and I'm not suggesting that you do that tonight. I mean, that's up to the court, but that's not what I'm asking you to do tonight.
Cam, tell me if this is correct. If we've had a first reading, we have a second reading, we haven't had a motion for a second reading, but if we had a motion and we passed a second reading, we could always come back and add language.
Yeah, I guess we could do that.
We could add language after we kind of determined what that would look like, what the fair parameters would be, and consider that separately. And then it would be an amendment to this ordinance.
Yeah, so you're suggesting have the second reading on this, vote on that, and then potentially come back and amend it.
After we know exactly.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know if, this is an umbrella ordinance for all. And there's not been any development application made to this point yet. So there's time. It's not like there's, but we have worked on this and chewed on this, and certainly respect what mayor's bringing to the table, and in consideration of and if that is the pleasure of the court, then you all know me. I'm always willing to bring that to you to get your feedback on it. Other comments?
So Judge, just comments I'd like to make is that what we've put in this text amendment, I think covers us as far as if there was a spill or something like that. The campground has to totally shut down. So that takes everybody away from there. What would be cleaned up is not a huge cleanup compared to the trailer park, in my opinion. It wouldn't be a huge cleanup. I think that the applicant, Mr. Anderson, went through great lengths to bring us this new technology, which I like. I think it's a great idea to try to use. And like the judge said, there's other ones that are already being put in place now. So I think what we've put in this ordinance will cover us. That's just my opinion. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I think it will cover us if something did happen.
And you might be correct. What I would propose is consideration as the other ordinance as presented. And if somebody wants to make that motion after we go over the summary, and then we can come back and we can consider what the parameters would look like. And if that's something that you all want to add to this language, then we can. But have facts on paper and information on paper and what it would look like. And it wouldn't just be for this proposed future development. It would be for any and all coming forward. So,
Cam, you would have to, if you amend it later, you still have to do another first reading and another
Yeah,
second
you have to
reading.
essentially draft a new order.
but then we're just talking about
that one piece.
that one piece.
In the transaction
Summary would be a lot
can go
shorter.
forward.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
And what you're suggesting, Judge, would let that transaction go forward
Yes.
in consideration happening.
Yeah. And we can get facts on paper, and if that's what the court wants to consider, then they can at that time. But I would ask you to consider what we have now, and then come back and consider, once we have information on paper, and we've gotten that clarified, what it would look like, whether it be a insurance policy or bond or whatever. If that's what you all want, then that's what we'd work together. Does that sound fair?
I think so. I'd like to make a motion. We go ahead with the second reading.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor then.
I'll second it, but I also want to make some comments.
We have a second, and then we have comments.
Yeah. A couple things, and I've said these before. When I saw this technology and looking at places that are already doing it, and then the whole nation of Japan they're using it big time because they don't have a lot of land and that kind of thing. But anyhow, my point is this. I see it as the potential. The evidence is that it works. Now, I'm sure there are problems. I don't think there's any perfect system out there, but the evidence is that this is a really good installation, and if it's done properly, it works. It takes the burden off of, that's what hit me first, it takes the burden off of public or private sanitation, sewage treatment plants. There are a lot of problems with sewage treatment plants. I spent 3 years building them back in the 80s, and I have seen the emergency bypass where it's raw sewage hitting the creek and hitting the Kentucky River for hours at a time. But all that aside, if I understand this installation properly and all that they've said, this never leaves the property. Once it goes in those tanks, it stays underground. Can there be a problem? Yeah. To me, this is my thoughts, but because I haven't seen it written this way, but that what they showed us and what I've investigated, it's like my septic system at my house. And when that tank stops up or it's not working properly, I got to pump it. That's what happened here. I think, if I understand it properly. So I thought that was actually a great advantage, possibly, to lessen the burden on our. I understand them, and I agree with the mayor, and I was a part of that with the mobile home community. They had to have help, and that's what we did. And yes, it was expensive, but this thing going in this kind of application, the biggest thing is two things. It never resurfaces. It doesn't go out into a creek. It can't. It's all self-contained. So it can't contaminate, I don't think.
It's a drip irrigation system.
Right, and I don't think it can contaminate anything around it. And then the other thing is, these folks can move out. You can shut the place down, but that wasn't the case, as the mayor rightly said. That wasn't the case with the mobile home park and those folks. They were going to have to be just displaced and find new homes, and that didn't happen. And as he said, I think the mayor and the council, they considered it. They had to. But anyhow, that got fixed, and we were able to partner. So that was my comments.
So we've got a motion, and we have a second on the floor. Before we move forward, though, we need to read the summary. And Mayor, I appreciate your time and appreciate your input.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Respect your concern.
All right, Scott County Fiscal Court Ordinance Number 2310, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of Scott County, Kentucky, in the cities of Georgetown, Sadieville, and Stamping Ground pertaining to RV campgrounds. Summary. 1. Amends the zoning ordinance of Scott County, Kentucky, in the cities of Georgetown, Sadieville, and Stamping Ground, or zoning ordinance, to require RV campgrounds to rezone to A1R, agricultural recreational, prior to being permitted, rather than allowing them as conditional uses in the A1 district. 2. Adds the following performance standards for RV parks or campgrounds. 10% of the area, A, 10% should be set aside as usable open space. B, sites must be served by a public water system and must operate at a level of service to provide fire protection pursuant to standards utilized by the Scott County Fire Department. C, maximum density of 10 RV sites per acre when served by public sanitary sewer, and maximum of 5 RV sites per acre when served by private sewer systems. D, RV campgrounds operating on a private sanitary sewer system must have a recorded agreement with the local health department and the Kentucky Energy and Environment Cabinet's Division of Water regarding semi-annual inspections and maintenance of the private sanitary sewer system. Semi-annual reports must include all notice of violations from any regulatory agencies. Semi-annual inspections and reports shall be funded by the owner of the RV campground. Inspections shall include treatment facilities and collection/conveyance infrastructure. Failure of the owner to provide semi-annual reports on the status of the private sanitary sewer system shall be grounds for the closure of the campground until such reports are provided. E. RV campgrounds operating on a private sanitary sewer system shall not utilize package treatment plants, which are defined as 1. Pre-manufactured treatment facilities used to treat wastewater in small communities or individual properties, and 2, which include extended aeration plants, sequencing batch reactors, oxidation ditches, contact stabilization plants, rotating biological contractors, or treatment lagoons. F. RV campgrounds operating on a private sanitary sewer system shall only utilize a treatment system, 1, which is approved and permitted by the Kentucky Cabinet of Health and Family Services, or Cabinet, or Kentucky Energy and Environment Cabinet's Division of Water, DOW. 2, which is a combined process wastewater treatment system. 3, which is approved for use by the Cabinet as an aerobic treatment unit based upon the authority of applicable Kentucky administrative regulations. 4, which shall be installed and operated to produce an effluent treated to a secondary level of treatment of less than 30 milligrams per liter BO day, 5-day biochemical oxygen demand, and less than 30 milligrams per liter of TSS, total suspended solids, and meets the discharge limits prescribed in the DOW waste load allocation discharge permit. 5, which shall be installed by a Kentucky certified installer. 6, which shall be inspected by a certified inspector. 7, which shall otherwise comply with all applicable Kentucky statutes and administrative regulations, subject to the approval and oversight of the Cabinet. And 8, which is operated and maintained by an individual who holds a Class 3 or above wastewater treatment license in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Failure to comply with this provision shall be grounds for closure of the campground until the private sanitary sewer system is certified to be operating in compliance with this ordinance. G, failure of the owner to maintain the private sanitary sewer system in good operation and free of violations from the local health department, state cabinet for health and family services, and DOW shall be grounds for closure of the campground until the private sanitary sewer system is certified to be operating in compliance with all federal, state, and local regulations. Operator must notify the local health department immediately upon discovery of a failure in the private sanitary sewer system. H, RV campgrounds with more than 400 RV sites shall have 2 public road connections. RV campgrounds with more than 600 sites shall have a 3rd public road connection. RV campgrounds with more than 200 RV sites shall have a secondary emergency access entrance, which may be gated and which may be used as a full-time public entrance for RV campgrounds with more than 400 RV sites. I, internal driveways must be constructed to the minimum requirements of a public road and connect the development to an existing public road of adequate width. J, campground entrances must connect to a collector or arterial road with a pavement width of at least 20 feet with a 3-foot shoulder. Secondary accesses can be constructed for emergency use only. K, RV campsite pads shall be outside the 1% annual flood chance area, 100-year floodplain, and shall be at least 2 feet in elevation above the 1% annual flood chance area. L, all on-site septic systems shall be located outside the floodplain and at least 25 feet from any riparian buffer. M, access to recreational vehicle parking areas in RV campgrounds shall be designed to minimize congestion and hazards at each entrance or exit and allow free movement of traffic on adjacent streets. All traffic into or out of the parking area shall be through these entrances and exits. N, recreational vehicles may be placed in an RV park for a period not to exceed 4 months within any consecutive 12-month period and may be used for sleeping and living purposes during that time that it is so placed in the park, provided it is self-contained and further provided it is connected to and receiving electric and water and sanitary sewer services. O, fencing. RV campgrounds must provide a fence of at least 6 feet in height along the property boundaries with A1 zone property and rights-of-way with diamond mesh wire or equivalent no-climb wire and post spacing 8 feet on center. P, landscaping. Establish a 50-foot preservation easement by plat along the boundaries of non-A1R zone property and rights-of-way. The easement shall contain the following tree lines: a double row of evergreens deciduous trees spaced 40 feet on center. The ratio of evergreens and deciduous shall not exceed 2 to 1. If the campground abuts a public road, the trees shall be 30 foot on center. The tree plantings may be waived where existing tree lines provide adequate screening. All new landscaping shall exclude any species that may be deemed harmful to livestock. 3, provides an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination at the office of the Scott Fiscal Court Clerk, 101 East Main Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324. Introduced and publicly read for the first time September 28, 2023. Publicly read for the second time October 26, 2023.
Thank you. We had a motion and we had a second. Are there any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes,
L,
sir.
Like L says all on-site septic systems. Like we're not allowing septic systems, so should I just say sewer systems?
That on-site system is essentially a sanitary septic sewer system. I mean, it's, yeah.
We can change that word to sewer system. I don't think that's a problem, Ryan, if you'd like to do that.
Yeah.
I think it makes more sense.
Y'all make that change.
All right. Any other questions? And
When
we
you
can
change that one word to sewer, then that's going back to,
it's not enough, though, to,
well, I'm just saying, it is a septic system.
it is a septic.
Yeah.
It's a sanitary,
Yeah, I get you. It's a little semantics there, but
yeah.
when you put sewer in there, I start thinking about, a treatment plant, and that's not really what this is. But that's okay.
So should we say on-site sanitary wastewater treatment systems? I mean, that's,
Just on-site systems, take that out.
Well, I'm not the attorney.
well,
I just
What do
know
you think?
words
Say-
have meanings.
Public or private sanitary sewer systems.
all right.
That sound all right?
That sounds fine. You good with that, Rick?
I'm not going to sue anybody.
And then
Okay.
we can take up and do some due diligence on indemnification, whether it be, if that's a pleasure of the court.
We got to vote on this one.
I know,
first.
but I'm just saying that we can
Yes.
consider that, and if that's what the court wants to consider, we certainly shall. So let's do a roll call.
Okay. You're for it, yes. Okay. Mr. Hostetler?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
No.
Mr. Corman?
Yes.
Mr. Pratt?
Yes.
Judge Remington?
Yes. So we will move forward, and thanks everybody for your time and efforts related to that important subject. Ordinance 23-11, second reading, budget, federal grant fund.
All right. Oh, a lot shorter this time. You're welcome.
Yes.
Ordinance 2311, Scott County Fiscal Court Amendment. An ordinance related to the annual budget and amendment thereof. Whereas Scott County, Kentucky has realized unbudgeted receipts, be it ordained by Scott County of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Section 1, current fiscal year 2023-2024. The budget for the current fiscal year is amended to increase/decrease the receipts of the following funds to include unbudgeted receipts from A, revenues, federal grant account 07-4504, federal grants, amount $750,000, so total amended revenues are $750,000. B, appropriations, fund federal grant account 075340, description, other social service programs, amount $750,000, total amended expenditures $750,000.
Questions or comments?
And I have to say this too. Section 2, the amounts adjusting the receipt and expenditure accounts in Section 1 are for governmental purposes, and the first reading was on the 13th.
Questions or comments, and would there be a motion? Motion, a second from, motion from Mr. Hostetler, second from Mr. Pratt. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. This next one, number 9, our Reservoir Advisory Board met tonight, and I think we can change the name of this after tonight. But they had previously made a recommendation to name the property in northern Scott County that we've called the Reservoir property to the Lytle's Fork Recreation Area. And that is a recommendation, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions or comments related to that. And that's the Lytle, just in case you were wondering, that's the Lytle's Fork of Eagle Creek. That it's commonly known, and it's been called that area has been called that for many, many years. And JR's been a member of this advisory board. And would you like to comment or anything on that, JR?
It's a fitting thing, and I would love to see that happen.
Motion for Mr. Hostetler.
Second.
A second for Mr. Jones. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
How do you spell that, Judge?
Lytles.
Fork.
So they're working on some recommendations and some various things, and they'll be getting back with us. So Very good. EMS surplus junk. It's 2 cabinets. Shared. Any questions or comments? Would there be a recommendation to approve that?
Motion.
Motion from Kelly Corman, second from Mr. Jones. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Transport proposal, cold weather shelter. Candace, would you come up and I might ask you a few questions. Candace, she's very, she just in time, kind of like, supply. She had noticed the position of this agenda item. She said, I'll be there about 7:35-ish.
Yeah.
And you're just in time. But JR, before I go any further, when we started this conversation, the need to find a vendor was the biggest challenge. And I called on JR because he never says no. And JR made several calls, went out there and met with several different people, and that's how we've gotten here. And so, JR, I appreciate that very much, your help.
Anything for Candace is your
Candace has taken my place, hasn't she? But Candace, would you share with the court kind of your conversations with the Gathering Place? And, I've been over there as recently as this week and met and toured, and their concern is space and increased need for family space because they have. I'm going to stop talking and let you talk.
So when I took my position, I went over there to check in on how the White Flag Shelter had been going, and one of the concerns was space, but also safety, because the way they were trying to fit people in wasn't ideal for keeping everybody safe. That's what we all want at the end of the day, and it's the whole point of the White Flag Shelter. So, long story short, this trailer at the high school presented itself. Well, really, it was Joe Pat's idea. And so their board of directors has voted, and they are happy to take this additional building on their property. They are ready for that to be installed. They have plans to renovate the trailer. It needs some drywall work and some, fixing up on the inside. They do have to alter the way it's laid out just slightly. Right now you can access all areas of the trailer from anywhere in the trailer. Learning cottage, warming cottage, whatever.
Warming cottage.
Warming cottage. They will have to build a wall down the center so that way they can keep men and then women and children separate. But that's pretty minimal, really.
But there's a bathroom.
There's 2 bathrooms.
Yeah.
And this will be the biggest building on their campus, actually. And so during the cold months, it will be their White Flag Shelter. So anybody who is coming for that program will be able to be in that building. And then on the off months, that's what Joe Pat was referring to, it will be an opportunity for them to serve families, because at this point they have the women and children's shelter and they have the men's shelter. And so if a family comes, man, wife and children, they cannot stay together, and a lot of times instead of separating, sometimes they'll separate, but a lot of times they opt to stay together and find a less than desirable place to be able to make sure they all stay together.
And one thing I was going to mention as well, like what they mentioned to me on I guess Tuesday when I went over there, that the current place where the White Flag Shelter is would transition to where if they have requests to house families for cold weather shelter, and that would become that place. They felt better about that.
Yeah. So it's just another piece that they can move around to make sure they're getting the most out of the property that they have.
But they support this. They've got it laid out. They're excited.
They went to planning and zoning and got the conditional use permit, because that lot behind them is something they purchased with the ARPA funds, and so it wasn't zoned correctly yet. They have that done, and then they did the consolidation to make sure that we had it all set in at the right, forget what that term is, but they're ready to go. So
the cost includes to take apart a 66 by 28 warming cottage / trailer and relocate it from Cardinal Drive and deliver it over to Bourbon Street. Set up new anchor system, new moisture barrier, set up by a certified installer and set to code.
And they have to pour footers.
And then the other piece of the estimate, that's 15.5. The other piece of the estimate was $8,500 to pour footers to set it on properly. So all that combined comes out to be $24,000. I have asked Mayor Jenkins to consider splitting this cost with the fiscal court. Mayor Jenkins mentioned this to the city council Monday, said that this potentially could come that way. And you know, I would ask you all to consider approving this, as a split with the city. They will meet, I think, in two Mondays. I don't think they meet this Monday, but the following Monday.
Will the gathering place own it and insure it?
The gathering place will accept the donation from the school board as a surplus. So it'll be.
I don't need that.
No, absolutely not. So all we are doing is helping facilitate this where, they don't have the funds to do it. And it will serve as this white flag shelter into the future and really will provide a very good location that's safe, that meets the needs, and will allow people to get out of the cold.
And I should specify too, I clarified with him today to make sure I was correct, but we're calling it a white flag shelter specifically because it is mostly for cold weather months, but also it is for heat too. And so white flag shelter serves for if the heat is above 95, the heat index is above 95, then they will be open during the day as a cooling center. So I clarified with their board today and they are willing to do that as well. And I talked to Cam about adding that wordage in there. So it does serve as both, so that's why I've been trying to make sure we call it the white flag shelter so that way we know. And those really hot days in July can also be open as a cooling center to keep people safe from the heat too.
Questions and comments?
Do we need to add that to the agenda?
Yeah, we need to update that agreement. I guess it is through today or tomorrow or something like that. So we needed to update it either for a year or we could consider a longer term, I guess, since we have sort of a longer term solution here.
Yeah.
So maybe add it to the next agenda, I guess.
Does the cost that you gave us, is that with the construction that needs to be done on the inside plus the utilities that need to be hooked up?
They're going to, all they want us to do is that they've got volunteers lined up and they have it. We just need to help them get it there and they're going to take it from there.
Yeah.
Is that what you understand? That's what
yeah.
The assistant director I met with, that was her. She said they've got volunteers lined up, and they're gonna do the repairs that need to be done, and there's a couple windows that need to be fixed, but they've got that covered. If we can help them with this, then that they'll take it from there. We have a motion.
I'll make a second. I think it's a no-brainer and a great
Okay.
move for our community. So.
All right. So motion is second. Comment?
Question, and that is, your motion is with the contingency that the city of Georgetown approved.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. You feel good? All right with that?
Perfectly okay.
All right. So any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you, JR.
No. And the other piece of this is Candace is really trying to be intentional about communicating the opportunity in places where people that need it will see it. And I appreciate what you're doing there. So,
thank you all.
All right. All right. Back to the next agenda item, landscaping bid. We put this back out. We had two bids. The low bidder was Hastings Custom Lawnscapes, $24,080. This is for 12 months. This will be 28 mowings per season, 14 for the turf areas. That's 14 mowings for the secondary turf areas, kind of like the retention pond and areas, not pond, but retention basins that don't need mowing as much. Landscape bed maintenance, vegetation management, spray for weeds, turf fertilization, primary 2 treatments spring and fall, secondary fall treatment, 1 fall treatment, turf treatment, primary 2 treatment spring, 2 summer, 1 fall, and then secondary turf, 1 spring, 1 fall treatment. That was from the Hastings Custom Lawnscapes, and this is for 1 year, and then we'll put it back out to bid.
When does it start? When do you?
Well, I spoke to Mr. Hastings, and what I was hoping is that we could get him out there. JR's team 2.5, 3 weeks ago put over 1,000 pounds of seed on it, and we have been blessed to get a little rain. I haven't been out there this week to check, but I bet we've got some grass coming,
We have,
and it's great. Appreciate it. But the hope is that he'll get out there, mow it, clean it up, trim it, weed eat it, mow it real good, and then do any fall fertilization. And then the clock starts ticking until next fall. This time we'll put it back out to bid. He'll bill us monthly. He'll divide that up monthly, and if y'all think we ought to divide it up some other way, but I didn't think of.
Will he do it monthly or do it just through the summer months?
No, like
annual.
he won't start, like he'll get it fall fertilized and mowed this one time because it needs a mowing, but then he won't really do anything again until the spring, and then do that.
That's why I was thinking maybe his bills would be larger in the summer.
Yeah.
You know.
And I can talk to him, and Stacy and I can work if he wants to bill us every 2 months, whatever it works. But it's a year, and he'll do all that work for $24,080. Any other questions?
No, I would just make sure he doesn't put down a pre-emergent or anything with that new seed. So.
And he knows that the seed's gone out, and that's a great point.
also, the fence has been completed, protect the fields.
No, it looks fantastic.
I was out there yesterday. It looks good.
So the goal is like in March, like Georgetown Football Club, we'll have those bathrooms open, we'll have those fields available, and they can take off using them. I really think that the grass will be good enough then. So
And we'll have a ribbon cutting, right?
yes, sir.
We're still waiting on it.
Yes.
Is this, so will this park ever turn into what Great Crossings Park is, or do will we have a full-time person working?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No. But I do think that what we're doing, trying to make those fields nicer, I think is the right thing to do.
Yeah, I finally got back there this week. That's the first time I drove all the way back.
Yeah.
Realized you go all the way
So-
back. It's nice back there. So.
No. So would there be a motion and a second?
I'll say.
Motion from Mr. Hostetter, second from Mr. Jones. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. That leads us down to Fire Department Bay Doors bid. Chief Ward, I was meeting with Cam and Joe Kane this afternoon when you sent a text and those pictures. And, the fire department trains constantly, and they had a high ropes training and
rope rescue training.
rope rescue training, and they were hanging off of the water tank at Payne's Depot. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You sent me those pictures, and I said, Lord have mercy. But appreciate the attention to detail and the training you all do, and just wanted to make that the court aware of what was going on here this week. And there's a bid that we put out for bay doors, and I'll let you take it from here.
Correct. Basically, we included 8 bay doors in this current year's budget. We put that out for bid. We ended up getting 2 bids. One was for $163,740, and the other bid was for $185,908. The issue we're having with this is even with the low bid of $163,000, I think we had in our budget $152,000 for those bay doors. So just trying, figure out. We would like to go with a low bidder, but we do need to find that additional $11,740 to help offset that.
And just to make sure everybody's aware, how many stations will this impact?
So basically, what we were going to do is do the front bay doors at
2,200.
Station 1, 2,200, and then do 2 doors, the 2 doors at Newtown and the 2 doors at Homestead.
And these doors would be insulated.
Correct. The current doors that we have on them now, they're not insulated doors, and they're falling apart.
Yeah. That leaves us,
You'll probably make up for that money with the invoices you bring me for the repairs of the doors.
Yeah.
offset the cost.
And the heat. I mean, and part of with the generator project too, we're getting those heating units replaced at Newtown and Homestead that had the electric in it. They're now the 2 propane heaters, but the amount of the utility bills that we're paying in these stations has got to be way up there.
So,
'cause they're,
we'll still have to add 4. I mean, there's how many more doors in the back at
so
2200?
there's 4 doors in the back, and then so we still need to get those replaced, and then the Sadieville station.
Okay. But we didn't want to try to bite it all off
Right.
at one time in 1 year. So I appreciate that, trying to be,
Yeah.
physically, recognizing, trying to spread it out.
And the thing was, even the initial numbers they gave us back in March or April, I think we increased that, once we submitted for our budget, we even increased that 2,000 or 3,000 to help, because we knew it's going to be a time before we get it out to bid. But even that increase that we put for the budget, that, you see what we got here now. I mean, that's.
Questions or comments for Chief Ward?
No, I don't have a question for him, but has the budget committee talked about this 11?
Well, this was in the budget, but the 11,000.
11,700.
We haven't talked about where to pull that from. Michelle,
Most everything we do goes over the estimated cost, and we just take it from reserve.
and we have a reserve for transfer that, we try to navigate very delicately, but there's times that dictate you need to pull it. Mr. Hostetler.
What kind of a warranty did they come with?
I'm not sure, Rick. I'd have to look.
Well, the reason I'm asking is from Stacy's comment and yours about the maintenance on them already, what it's apparently costing.
All of them, EMS,
Oh, yeah.
fire,
Yeah.
there's constant bills on
Just fixing the
doors, yes. But they're very old.
They're
so-
old, yeah, initially we went in thinking, we got 8 doors, we were just gonna do station 1, cause it has 8 doors in itself. But Newtown and Homestead the doors are in such bad shape that we can't really do that. We need to get 2 doors at those locations as well. And then do the next, the rear 4 on station 1 in another budget year.
Well, it sounds to me like we gotta fix them.
And Michelle, will you look at the best place to pull it from, or we just pull it from reserve for transfer? All right.
Or John, do you got any money in your budget?
Well, I mean, we can look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I would suggest too, is try to,
We won't know till later
Yeah.
in the fiscal year.
could we negotiate with that lower price one also? Maybe give them cut a half of what we went over? I mean, it's always, you can always ask.
All I can say is no.
Yeah.
I don't care to ask, yeah.
And, ask them if they'd do it for, like split that 11,000 in half. And then what I hear being said is instead of just automatically taking it out of reserve for transfer, we'll take it out of John's budget for building maintenance. And then well, I'm just,
That's what we always do.
I know, but I'm just letting everybody know what we always do. So we'll take it out of building maintenance.
Michelle
Unless it's something like you just approved, the
Yeah.
white flag shelter stuff, there's no money
Yeah.
for that.
No, we'll have to take that out of reserve.
I appreciate the judge telling us what we always do,
Yeah.
because sometimes we don't always
Yeah.
know what we
But-
always do.
But we'll do that, and then if John runs short, then we will give him that, that money out of reserve on building maintenance. But we can sell some, some candy bars maybe, and car wash.
Yeah,
Fire-
firefighters calendar. That's right, Ray.
Brown.
Firefighters calendar.
That's brown.
Boy, we'll have
All
all
right.
the bay doors done and all the stations.
Would there be a motion from someone to approve the bid as?
I'll make a motion
And we'll
with,
make, all right, so we got a motion, we got a second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. I'm going to now turn it over. Health insurance plan renewal, stop loss coverage. DJ Story and Jeff Mudrack are here. The budget committee met and really looked at this closely, and I feel very confident about the recommendation. I'll let Jeff and DJ take it from here.
Yeah, thank you, Judge, Magistrates. You know, with exciting of a topic as health insurance is, I'm really disappointed we're not higher on the agenda myself, but we'll let it go.
I was trying to make DJ stay all night in Georgetown.
That's right.
We need the dollars.
Yeah, that's right. But we have spent a good bit of time over the last couple of months working with DJ, looking at our stop loss reinsurance and trying to negotiate rates with a couple of different carriers and whatnot, and trying to find an affordable solution. I'll have a couple of recommendations to share with you, but I think what probably is the best place to start is if Derek, if you could pull the illustration up, there you go.
Yeah.
And then I'll let DJ just start, and he could talk about the stop loss reinsurance, and I'll talk about a little bit about our analytics, our financials on our health insurance plan.
And this was all shared by email. It's nothing new, but I'll let DJ take it from here.
It's going to be really easy to read, so I'll give you the highlights. When this chart just gives the basic highlights of when we're renewing our health insurance. Obviously, there's three major components within that, Scott County being self-funded. We have to pay administrative expenses for, in this case, Anthem to administer our claims and for the employees to receive the discounts and access that Anthem provides. The only insurance we actually purchase is stop loss or reinsurance. This is what it's called there for high loss claimants that we would have. And then really the rest of that, the biggest, largest bucket is the claims that we would have at Scott County that come in underneath that reinsurance and stop loss amounts. So when the administrative cost was a negligible change from about $210,000, $216,000 in cost from an admin perspective. The biggest difference is the fact that we do have some cost increases when it comes to our reinsurance. The reason being is that we have some high cost claimants on this year. Some of those are going to be ongoing. Just for perspective, our specific stop loss premium this year is about $359,000. That's what we pay. We're trending to be probably over $400,000 in reimbursements back for claimants that have exceeded that stop loss threshold. So if you pay less than what the insurance pays back, then typically they're going to ask for more premium that next time around. So they did. The current incumbent carriers, HCC, they requested an increase after negotiation of about $466,000 in stop loss premium. But in addition to that, they asked for additional lasers. Now, laser is if we look at one individual person that the carrier believes is going to have ongoing claims, that we can increase the amount, the liability the court has on that individual member. So they asked for another $475,000 on two members for those ongoing claims requests. We then shopped that, or in the process of this, shopped that to other stop loss carriers. Our best option was one through Symetra, who came back and offered a lower cost of premium and no lasers for those individual members on the next contract. We took that a step further and said, what's the way that we can help keep our overall fixed costs down and protect Scott County's budget moving forward? So our best option is actually an option through Symetra that moves our specific stop loss deductible up from $110,000 per person to $125,000 per person. That moves our overall stop loss premium to about $405,000, saves us around $60,000 from what the premium would be on the current 110, and it also gives us an option called a no new laser provision, which means that we don't have any lasers in this contract year, and we wouldn't be guaranteed not to have lasers in 2025. In the marketplace, we're seeing more and more lasers because more and more folks have conditions that are chronic or high-cost medications are involved, and the stop loss carriers can laser in on those folks and say, we're going to make you take more and more of that liability. So having us be able to put an option on the table, not just for 2024, but 2025, to say we're not going to have a laser that's going to potentially have a huge impact on our budget was, we felt, necessary. So our recommendation would be that we go with that Symetra renewal. The Anthem would still be in place. There would be no negative effects to employees. All plans and designs would remain the same, but that we would have a different stop-loss carrier moving into 2024, and that would be Symetra. That would be the recommendation. Any questions on the overall stop-loss or insurance piece? And then Jeff was going to walk through the budget numbers.
So we have that recommendation. That probably needs to be a motion in itself.
And I can bring, I'll make
Okay.
that motion. at the end.
All right. Thank you, DJ.
Of course.
Okay. And
And then can I just, our administrator is Anthem,
Yes.
and your only other option is pretty much United Health.
Yes.
And from the data and just the big picture, Anthem continued to be our best choice from our assessment. I just wanted y'all to know that was looked at as well.
Yeah. Anthem overall in the state of Kentucky, obviously Command is dropping out. Anthem overall in the state of Kentucky holds about 78 to 80% of the market share in total, which means that they are the bigger fish when it comes to the negotiation with providers, which actually trickles down and helps employees because they're getting a better overall discount.
So being in network with the providers, you've got a better chance with Anthem. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, it's closer with it. United's the closest, but Anthem overall we still feel is the best option.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Yes.
So if, hopefully, can you all read that fairly well? If not, I got some handouts too that I can, this is a document that you all have not seen yet. Is that visible to you all? Everybody in the court can see that? Okay, all right, good. Then what I want to do is just run through the financials real quick, kind of recapping 2023, the current year. We are estimating claims will be at $2,500,000 or $2,532,000 for this year. And pharmacy claims will be at $709,000. That brings us to a total of $3,241,000. If you factor in the rebates of $198,000, that will bring down those claims some, as well as the guarantee payment for not hitting the pricing guarantees with the pharmacy at $22,000. And then we're also expecting stop-loss reimbursements of at least $400,000 for this current year. Once again, that stop-loss reimbursements are for those claimants where their claims exceeded $110,000 in this current year. Also, jumping back up to that pharmacy number, yeah, we paid $709,000 on pharmacy claims, where we're getting almost $200,000 back in pharmacy rebates. And those are on brand name medications, so that helps us out. So the net claims expense is $2,620,000. If you add back in the admin expense with Anthem of $210,000, the stop-loss premium that we're currently paying at $359,000, and the aggregate loss premium at $21,000, that brings total plan expenses to $3,212,000. The budget for this year, the $3,625,000, of course, that is a combination of 6 months at this number and 6 months at this number because it's a calendar year plan, not a fiscal year plan. So that gets the budget to $3,625,000. You add in the employee paid premiums of $321,000, gives you a total budget or total plan revenue, if you will, of $3,946,000. You back out the expenses, $3,212,000. We're looking at a budget surplus of $733,000 for this year. So that's good news. That's a good number. I'm very happy that we're in that position. Looking at next year, the projection, and this is why we are presenting this recommendation to you. The medical claims we're anticipating at $3,038,000, and the pharmacy claims at $759,000. That brings the total claims to $3,798,000. You might wonder where I got the $3,798,000 from. Well, that is 115% of this number. So you're going to budget above expected. So we're budgeting above expected, and that's why we're budgeting at $115,000. That's where that number comes from. And then I spread those claims over the pharmacy and the medical expenses. You factor in then, like I said, the rebates, the RX guarantee payment, and what we anticipate will be the stop-loss reimbursements. We expect those to be a little bit lower in this next year. That gives your total net claims expense at $3,317,000. Then you factor in the additional admin expense, the stop-loss premium with Symetra at $125,000 stop-loss level. That's $405,000. The aggregate loss premium, that brings your total plan expenses to $3,969,000. Once again, you factor in a budget, Scott County budget at $3,775,000, and employee contributions at $321,500, gives you a total plan funding of $4,096,000. You back out the plan expenses, and we should have a surplus, hopefully, of $127,000. So that's good news. So what you're seeing here, and this will be part of the recommendation I'll be making here, is that we not increase the Scott County's budget for health insurance in 24-25, and that we don't increase employee paid premiums either.
I was gonna, that's so big, and it's really a tremendous thing to share with our employees that, that's going to be the recommendation.
Yes.
When everything else is going up, we're going to be able to manage to hold that steady.
So at this time, I have two recommendations to present to you regarding our health insurance. One is the selection of Symetra as our new stop-loss provider, and also selection of the policy with a $125,000 threshold and no new lasers for 2025. The second part of that recommendation will be no increases in the Scott County budget for the 24-25 health plan, and no increase in employee paid premiums for the 2024 calendar year. So I present that to the court.
I appreciate all the work that's gone into this, and you really make it easy to follow, and and I know you all received this, but Jeff, sent out an email as well this week, just trying to help staff know what it means to be self-insured, how we can help keep costs down, and why it's important. So I appreciate that due diligence. Comments or questions for Jeff or DJ?
Either one. So on 2023, the actual expense, I know that we budget over like 115%. I'm trying to see what our accuracy, were we right at about 100% of what we truly thought that the cost was going to be? You understand the question?
Well, is this what you're trying to say? The expected claims when we started the year were at $3,083,000.
Yeah.
So you can kind of look, the total claims were $3,002,000, but the net claims expense was $2,006,000. So it was somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, we're coming underneath that because when the expected claims is a underwriting number, right? They're taking the underwriting of the stop loss carrier, saying what we expect you to have. And so, yeah, we're coming underneath that because we're exceeding it in gross claims, but because some of those claims are over the specific, right, we come and net that back out. So we're actually coming in underneath that. Conversely, because we're having those claims, the underwriter's saying we're going to expect that you're going to have more claims in the next year as well.
But that's a testament to what the county's done as far as with some of the programming that we're having to reduce claims and to keep our costs low. And hopefully the employees understand, and they're part of this too, is, the less claims they have, it's better off for them in the long run for potential money that could cost them in the future if they, we have lots of claims. So that's good news. It's all good.
It's all good news. Yes. And another thing that you've explained it and call it carving out the pharmacy. We do that again, and that helps as well.
Yes.
And that's a savings.
Yeah. Well, one thing that we weren't getting when we didn't carve out the pharmacy was those rebates.
Yeah.
I mean, it's $200,000 in rebates that we're getting that we didn't get before.
That's real money.
Yeah.
So there's a recommendation on the table. Any other questions or comments?
All right, I'll make a motion.
Motion from Mr. Wallace, second from Mr. Corman. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Jeff, you have another piece of business.
Yeah, on 15, employee services agreement renewal. I've already shared this with you by email. I gave you a copy of that benefit advisory services agreement. I'm just asking for, I'm recommending renewal of that advisory agreement with Hub International. It was Peel and Holland. Now have you officially changed your name to Hub International?
We're Peel and Holland, a division of Hub International Mid-South.
Okay.
The full name change will be incoming later.
Okay. The agreement represents a 5% increase in the general advisory fee, so I present that to you for approval.
Questions or comments? Would there be a motion?
Motion.
Motion and a second for Mr. Hostetler. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all very, very
Thank you.
much. And then one other piece of information. Next Thursday morning, we're going to meet with department heads and constitutional officers and share information about upcoming benefit opportunities and changes. And Jeff will be communicating that out with CARE about open enrollment and all those things, and sharing that next Tuesday. And we'll be also doing a budget update with department heads and constitutional officers. But I do really want to really promote with our staff that the court, we have been able to navigate, this year the recommendation will not change. Any employee contribution will not go up. So that's a big thing. And then with that said, 1031, recommendation Halloween trick or treat, 6 to 8. Would someone like to make that motion? Second, we got a motion from Mr. Jones, second from Mr. Pratt. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. I hope we'll all be safe there. Any new business from any court member? I have no new business.
We need to do the extension board appointments.
We're going to table that.
Okay.
And we don't have to do that for
Okay.
for a little bit. We've got to iron through a couple things there.
Will they send a recommendation?
They sent 4 names. We picked 2.
It was in the email, but we're holding off on it for a minute.
We're going to hold off. We need to get clarified on a piece of information.
Judge, at our workshop first one in November, I'd like to bring up us revisiting the code enforcement the ordinance about specifically grass in residential neighborhoods. And so if we could talk about that, that's residential neighborhoods in the county that are zoned residential, that we look at the length of grass and the time it takes to send notifications back to.
Do you have a recommendation to change?
Well, the county we had it in place, and then before your
It's
term,
14 days now.
Yeah. After it gets to 10 inches in the city, how long is it? 7 days? 7 days. So once the grass gets to 10 inches, then you have 7 days to get it mowed, which takes a while for it to get. And we had multiple discussions about that the last time, and there wasn't a determination set in the county for what's residential and agriculture. And so I think that we need to go back and look at it the way we did it prior to that ordinance, so that if you're in a residential subdivision, Ironworks, Homestead, Longview, Victoria Estates, if you're zoned in a residential area, it should be 7 days to match what the city's doing in their areas.
Certainly put that on that list to discuss, and I'll ask code enforcement to come, Seth Johnson to come and any of their team. Any other new business?
Reminder, the next meeting is the 9th and not the 10th.
Okay, the 9th, not the 10th. Let me get that out here and just, I already got that. Yes,
Oh, because it's Veterans Day.
Veterans Day. So we'll meet on the 9th at 9 a.m.
Okay.
9 a.m.
So we'll have a work session though on the 3rd, regular time. All right. Any other new business?
Just wondering if at our next workshop, which I'm assuming is still the 3rd, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
About talking about the net device.
Oh, yes, sir.
I know they've gotten their.
Did you get any additional information? Okay, that was the only question that was made about getting additional information from Mr. Pratt, but I'll certainly invite Jeff and invite.
Yeah, did you put that email out from him?
Yeah.
I guess I overlooked it.
But Ryan, I believe Ryan was the only question about.
October 19th is when we got it.
I just wanted to see some of the raw data instead of, they put out a report from them, so.
Oh, he replied.
Did he? What'd he
Yes.
say?
That's all that he's able to give you at this time, but if you wanted to call and ask.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, he replied all, because I saw it. It's
So-
just like 2 sentences.
But I'll invite him by Zoom.
He's very limited on what he's allowed.
I mean, so we can have that discussion again,
Yeah.
because they have got what they can share, they have shared.
Yeah. All right. Any other new business for any?
Judge, they rescheduled that fire prevention parade November the 9th, 6:30.
6:30, November 9th. And any and all can join. All right. If there's no other new business, Mr.
Can I proceed with calling the transport company and, or do we need to wait on the city?
I think let me talk to the mayor and then let's me and you talk to the mayor. I'll talk to the mayor and then we'll talk about what we can communicate to him tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other new business?
John, what's the date for the parade?
November the 9th.
6:30.
Okay.
Planning commission meetings at the same time, 6 o'clock.
Judge, I'd just like to say thank you all for funding the Super Recycling Day. Had over 520 plus cars. I'll have a lot of data here real soon as far as volumes and what they disposed of. But thank you all for supporting the program.
75 big screen TVs. I'm just making that up. All right. If there's no other new business, then would there be a motion? Motion.
Second.
Second. All those in favor? We are adjourned.